Happy primary election day. Hope you voted. And on today's Daily Detroit, we are not talking about that topic at all. On your show for Tuesday, August 6th, my birthday, we're talking about an invasive species to keep an eye out for, the spotted lanternfly. Knowledge is half the battle, so we're going to talk to an expert about this unwanted garden guest, what to look out for, and how to handle it. I'm Jer Stays, and let's jump into that conversation. Joining me on the line is Zach Lacombe. He is the assistant manager of the Davey Residential Office. We're here to talk about the spotted lanternfly, something that's kind of new to me, but something we need to keep an eye on here in Michigan. As somebody who, I love nature, I love gardening, I love all these things. I've even seen like some billboards about this. This has been such a big deal, so I wanted to talk to an expert. Zach, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Hey, how's it going?
So why don't we start with just how new is it? I understand we're a little bit like early on the trajectory, but early is a good thing, right?
Early is definitely a good thing, especially seeing as we've been able to be informed in the public sense. It is within the past handful of weeks, the Michigan Department of Agriculture released the identification note that it's been found in the Monroe area of Michigan. It had been found in Oakland County before, but in Monroe, it was just within the past handful of months. Problems in the Toledo area in Ohio for the past probably couple of years, but it is still in its infant stages with Michigan.
So real quick, what is a spotted lanternfly?
It is a plant hopper. Comes from Asia, I think specifically China and India. It is a flying insect, tends to go after some specific types of trees.
Okay. And is this something that you can like spot? Like if you're out in your yard or whatever, is this something you'll be able to see pretty easily?
Depending on the level of infestation, the juveniles move pretty quickly, and they are a very dark color with white spots. So they can be a little bit difficult to try and spot on a tree or on a vine. If they're in a really low population, but if they're in a moderate population, they do move quite a bit. They can be pretty easy to spot, especially when they get to their older stages of life. They turn a reddish color before they end up developing their wings, and they end up being like a pink, blue, and red-yellow combo as adults, so they kind of stand out like a sore thumb.
And about how big are they?
About an inch long and about a half inch wide. It'll vary a little bit, and that's specifically the adults. The young go through 4 different stages. They start off anywhere from about a quarter an inch long to, say, about a half inch long.
Are there certain types of plants that they kind of prefer?
They prefer the tree of heaven or the ailanthus tree. That seems to be their absolute favorite food to eat on. But they will attack a lot of other plants and trees that we have in our area, maples, willows, oak trees, roses, vines, like say grapevine, hops. They're a big fan of those as well, and then a lot of fruit trees. But the main target they go after seems to be the tree of heaven.
Interesting. And the grapes and the hops are interesting too, because that's something that a lot of people are kind of passionate about. Now, Michigan is not the first state to deal with this, right?
No, it's been in several states, everywhere from Delaware, Indiana, Virginia, Rhode Island, Ohio, our sister state that's been dealing with this for a couple of years now.
Do we know about when they came into the United States?
It should have been about 2014.
Okay, so we've been seeing this for like 10 years or so somewhere in the U.S.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the signs that people should be looking for?
Some of the signs, one of the standout things is an overpopulation of insects on your plant material, but they will feed on the sap of your trees. So if you see weeping wounds, especially an abundance of them, if you start to see a sticky substance building up, usually on the lower part of your trees, that is honeydew, which is essentially their poop. That will actually be very, very sugary, so very, very sticky. That'll attract things like ants and wasps because of the sugar content. And then it'll actually grow sooty mold in it that'll turn it like a powdery black color over time.
You know, honeydew is probably the nicest name for poop I've ever heard.
Yep, it's a very common term used for a lot of different insects like scale and plant hoppers.
How do we control this early on? Like, say their egg masses, what do they look like?
Egg masses usually end up being like a grayish color. It almost looks like if someone took some really fine mud and smeared it on an area.
Mm.
Over time, it'll dry and crack and look a little bit more like a dried salt plain kind of area. The eggs are usually underneath of it. At times, you'll actually have the covering wear off, and you'll be able to see the eggs specifically. But as for treatment of the egg masses, if it's something that you can ID, scraping them off into a bag or a container that can be sealed, that way the eggs can't hatch and escape. But main thing is basically destroying them if you can positively ID them and come across them.
So yeah, just go ahead and take them out is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. It's an invasive pest. We don't want it around.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes, like people are like, well, what is this? Or should I keep it for scientific? No, just take it out, right?
Just take it right out. We know enough about the pest. We're not investigating it. It's not some new organism. It's not a native pest that's just exploding in population for one reason or another. It's something that's not from this area and can be very detrimental.
So as far as taking them out, kind of what do you want to do? And what are some ways to maybe protect what's going on or what you have?
As for protecting what plants you already have, keeping an eye on them and monitoring them, there are insecticides that can be used to kill them. There are preventative treatments that you can use. Things like a systemic insecticide can be utilized, but that is specifically more for targeting adults because the young move around so much that where you've treated on this plant, they might not be there doing any feeding. They might not ingest it. A general insecticide can be used when you have a population, but it's generally not recommended that you do massive amounts of preventative applications of general pesticide because that can actually kill off other beneficial insects. So it kind of ends up being on a case-by-case basis, depending on how bad the issue is in your area and how easy it can be to control with one method versus the other.
Yeah, and that's something that, with your background, I feel like you can shed some light on. I've heard people say, like, I'm going to nuke my yard, and I'm always like, that doesn't seem like a great thing, because, like, I have a bunch of, this year I have a bumper crop of lightning bugs, for instance, and, I think there's a place for all different kinds of treatments, but, just like the, colloquial nuclear option isn't always the best thing for your yard, right?
Correct. Just what we would refer to as a blanket application of insecticide can actually cause things like insect blooms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the insecticide is general, so it's going to kill off beneficial insects, including insects that will feed on the insects that you want not to be on your property. For example, praying mantises. Those can be impacted by a general insecticide, and those will eat insects that you don't want on your property. So if you're doing just covering your entire property with insecticide, you're actually potentially causing a much worse problem than you had to begin with.
And I can't help but think, like, being too general about it could also hurt things like birds and such.
Yes. So there is a thing called biomagnification. So you start off with the base level insect that you're trying to control. You treat it with a insecticide. There's enough there to kill the insects that prey on it. Eventually, there's not enough to kill the insects that you want, but there's still enough around that the predatory insects will ingest enough that kills them, and it kind of works its way up the chain. Like, let's say somewhere around 30 to 50 years ago, we were seeing a reduction in population of things like eagles and hawks, and that's because of biomagnification. There were things in the environment that were building up in their system and causing issues with them, but weren't high enough to cause issue with their prey.
Interesting. So really, in these days, you're really over at Davey and with your work, really looking at like balancing things a lot, aren't you?
Yes, we prefer to go with a system of treatment when it is required. I have many people that I've talked with over the years that said they just want everything sprayed, and my response is always, nope, we will treat for things that we have an issue with accordingly. But a blanket application is going to just cause more problems than you would want.
If you think you have these lantern flies, is that something that obviously you want to contact a professional like yourself, but is that something you want to actually contact the Michigan Department of Agriculture on that one?
So to do the actual treatment, you don't necessarily need to contact them, but if you identify the pest, be it its egg mass, the first stages, the juveniles or the nymphs, or even the adults, you should try and get a picture of it. You should get the location that you're at. You should try and kill the insect physically while it's there. If you can bag it up, that's awesome as well. But you should reach out to the Department of Agriculture and inform them, because they're going to be the ones that are helping to track the spread and also putting certain programs into place to potentially slow the spread. This isn't a pest that's likely to be completely exterminated from our area, but if we can control a little bit better and slow it from spreading out, it'd be better for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that. And if people want to learn more, or if they want to get in touch with you, about what's going on with their yard or what's going on, what can they do?
You can go to several different good websites. Michigan.gov has links for it, respectively, just specifically for the spotted lanternfly, as well as other invasive pests. If you have reasonable suspicion that you might have a population, or just want to have your things looked at, or even a preventative treatment for a susceptible species, you can Google or call your local Davey office and schedule an appointment for us to come out and have a look and give you an assessment.
All right. Well, Zach Lacombe, Assistant Manager with the Davey Residential Office, I really appreciate you and your time. And I feel like I learned something today.
Well, that's good. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Do not forget to leave 5 stars for Daily Detroit on your favorite podcast app. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.